Sioux Empire Podcast, episode 111, The Virgin Suicides with Ashley from Shoutout Sioux Falls.
A pathless wilderness, wild, rugged, that was a hardy frontier, far from the paths of civilization.
If you close your eyes, you can pretend it's North Dakota.
Where fortune beckons with a glittering smile.
Well, have you seen South Dakota shop? They're insanely hot!
And life hung on the quickness of a trigger finger.
I will do my best to listen more intently.
The Sioux Empire Podcast.
You're like, oh my god, what's happening? Well, hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Sioux Empire Podcast, the quirky but harmless podcast that's all about Sioux Empire news, comedy, music, and culture. As always, I am your host, Robert Mailing, and joining us today is the hooded, mysterious figure, Natasha Estes.
It's cold for me.
Also joining us, tail gunner Seth Glover.
And it's a glorious 90 degrees where I'm sitting.
Awesome.
You in the corner.
And also joining us and questioning her life choices is Ashley from Shoutout Sioux Falls.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
You're like,
I don't know what's going on.
happy to be here.
Was I supposed to do the piano thing too? Was that like part of the thing? Like,
Oh my
what is
god, what's happening? Where is this? What's going on?
No, it's a Seth thing. And then if you want to like mess with it,
Yeah, Seth started doing that because the intro is very piano heavy, and then
Played to me, and it called to me, and it
it
really,
just touched you, you know?
yep, really touched
You
me.
were inspired.
Pulled my strings. I am its puppet.
So I have to ask,
Yeah,
Ashley,
that
have you
song's
seen
still in my
seen
head,
this show
so-
before?
I have, yes.
Okay, good. So you know a little bit of like the randomness.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good.
cool with that.
I'm just like, shit, she's gonna be like all BBC serious. She's like, what is happening? No.
Yeah, if you've seen our show,
Yeah.
no.
I figured you could handle it.
Yeah.
So let's waste no further time and get into our favorite, well, A segment, Seth's Book Club. Oh.
Can I ask, how do you pick the book?
After the intro.
What's that sound? It's the sound of Seth's Sioux Empire Podcast bi-weekly book club. The books aren't about the Sioux Empire, but Seth reads them in the Sioux Empire.
Okay, when you're ready there.
Well, you see, Ashley, I choose the books by whatever I have around.
Okay.
Whatever his girlfriend was reading and left, like, by the nightstand at 4 a.m. the morning before we record this show.
Pretty much, yeah. That's yeah. There's not a lot of thought process that goes into it,
Okay.
you know. And most of the time, it's because I'm looking for a short story, and that's why I make my choice.
Yeah, what happened to the Book of Horrors?
I'm not sure where I said it.
I
be
looked
quite
all
honest.
over the studio, because
Well,
the book
it
is
would have
awesome.
only been here,
'Kay.
so I'm sorry that you did that. But I guess
Yeah.
it could have been specific.
All well. All well.
Oh, that's fine.
You'll find it. You'll find it.
So
Anyway, The Virgin...
The Virgin Suicides
There you
by
go.
Jeffrey Eugenides. You got a hard last name. No, it's Eugenides. Yeah, it is Eugenides. Yeah, Jeffrey Eugenides. Just
We checked on
To
YouTube
really get into
before
it?
the show.
you gotta
Did
say
you
his
do,
name.
what is the Google thing? There's like something you can do on Google where you type in a word and then it tells you the right pronunciation.
Dictionary.com?
No,
That's
it's
what
on
I go
Google.
to.
I don't know what it's called.
We should have
I'll
used
think about
that.
it.
I
Yeah.
dug through YouTube videos until we found an interview with him where people actually said his name instead
there
of
you go.
just letting a little subtitle thing have his name.
Okay, got it.
It only took me like 9 tries.
So, The Virgin Suicides, I think Ashley has seen the movie.
I've seen the movie.
And Rob has seen the movie, maybe, or something like that.
I did not realize until this moment that the movie was based on a book. So I'm very interested to hear about your review.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's, So, yeah, well, the book...
Great transition.
The virgin suicide. So you're reading for suicides, right? You're getting into it for the suicides, okay? And so, like, bam, right away, one suicide happens, but then it's just chapter after chapter of this, like, kind of weird look at into a young boy's or an adolescent boy's and girl's life.
Life. Okay.
Yeah.
I was worried
life,
about where that was
life.
going.
Not
Okay,
just
cool.
into them. Yeah, I know. Although there is some penetration and sort of the suicides,
Phrasing.
But so it's chapter upon chapter of that, of just like a creepy perspective of just these characters, and then finally at the end, they all, like, there's all the suicides all at once. The Lisbon girls just die.
So it's not just a clever name. There's suicide in it.
There's suicide in it, but
Okay.
you gotta. It's a lot of suspense and waiting for it to happen, and it's like not really.
Not really.
What's
I
gonna
mean,
happen.
if what happens is in the title.
Sorry, not waiting for what's gonna happen, but how it's gonna happen.
Ah.
So.
Wood chipper.
Yeah, they went
Okay.
with the Fargo way. It was weird, but they changed it for the movie to make more sense. I give it 13 out of 13 reasons. That should have gotten a laugh. Come on. That was hilarious.
That's way too many layers of suicide jokes.
Maybe that was where I was like, should I laugh at that?
Yeah.
I
We're all
don't
just sitting here
know.
like, is that safe for my soul? Okay, I guess I'll smile, but not laugh.
He has a unique writing style. I can't really compare him to some of those 19th century writers because they just are so, extravagant to.
It's so weird to have you
Compared to-
reviewing something that isn't Ambrose.
Exactly. But definitely. Oh, what's that, Rob?
No, I actually have a frog in my throat.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. It's a good book. And that's it. I'm sorry, I don't have.
That was the uptick of it. It's a good book. It doesn't really give me a lot of confidence to.
No.
Great job.
Yeah, thanks.
You're like, it's a good book. I'm like, great job. You're like, thank you.
It's just there's such a long wait for the death, and
Context.
Sorry. All right.
So here's my much deeper, more sophisticated take that I have because I actually read the book.
Tell me about it.
Or maybe I told everyone before we started recording that I actually didn't read the book or see the movie, but I did see a YouTube breakdown of an analysis of the book. So
One of those things might be true.
one of those things is true. Bear with me here. So the main take I get from the analysis of the book is that it's all about boundaries and separation. And it seems like the boys have this almost like magical thinking about the girls from the outside. And even like that is a level of objectification just because they're not people, they don't relate to it. Because there's this weird ass thing that I definitely saw in the video where they would call the girls and then they would just play a record instead of actually talking to them because they're so scared about talking to girls because girls are this exotic other and alien thing where it's just like instead of just picking up the phone and being like, hey, how are you doing? Are your parents fucking psychopaths doing terrible things?
That's part of the creepy. That's
part of the creepy. And, so I guess the broader themes that I picked up on from the book, or from the analysis of the book,
From the YouTube video.
from my extensive 3 minutes of research on YouTube, is that it's about boundaries, it's about separation, and then the dangers of the tranquility, because whenever something goes wrong or someone gets hurt or anything like that, it's all suburbia, covered up, white picket fences. We don't talk about it. All the evil is beneath the surface, and on the surface everything is just clean and fine, and the community's all just sweep every emotional, mental problem under the rug and just move on. And then the book's themes are about how that festers and turns into a cancer and can actually destroy lives. So that's what I took away from it.
I don't know if I took away all that, but it's an alright book.
Very good. Well, with that exhaustive analysis out of the way, this concludes Seth's Book Club.
sound of Seth's Sioux Empire Podcast bi-weekly book club. The books aren't about the Sioux Empire, but Seth reads them in the Sioux Empire.
They all can't be winners.
I usually really enjoy the Ambrose short horror stories, though, because I have learned a lot. I have read a lot of stuff because of your stuff, but this is the first one where I was just like, pass. Even if there's a free audiobook version of it on YouTube, pass.
Yeah, I apologize to Jeff. I'm gonna call him Jeff. I didn't, maybe give your book the best review that it's ever had, but I did my best. No, I didn't. I didn't do that. I didn't give you that.
I hope not. You're better than that.
Yeah, I'm better than that. I'm sorry, Jeff. I am better than that.
So your apology is turning into telling him how much better you are.
Yeah. I like that you saw that.
Well done. Well done. So, Ashley.
Hi.
Welcome to the Sioux Empire Podcast. This is usually the point in the show where I ask if anybody regrets their life choices about coming on the show or not.
I'm happy to talk to my parents. I will talk any opportunity that I have a chance to. So, no, I'm happy to be here.
Very, very good. I'm glad we haven't scared you off quite yet. Let's see. So you were doing a podcast. You guys are you on episode 8 or so?
Yep, we'll be doing 9 this Tuesday.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are every Tuesday at 11.
Yep,
right?
we do a live broadcast on Facebook, then that goes to YouTube, then iTunes.
Nice.
So I don't even know what to say about it. It's become something better than I hoped for.
Nice.
Because it's literally just my sister and I being idiots, and not even idiots. We're just...
So you guys are siblings?
It's my twin sister.
Oh!
Yep. So,
okay.
We have had this idea for a couple of years. I've kind of talked to a couple of different people. I know we have a mutual friend, Jenny McNamara.
Yep.
So she connected me with Bruce, who produces our show, and with a couple other people who have been on the show and stuff like that. And it's been at least a good 2 years. And finally I was just like, screw it. We're doing it. We're meeting this day, this time.
That's what you gotta do to make it happen.
Literally. And so it's been just fun, but also not like a huge stressor. But if you watch the show, half the time we're just telling you to Google what we're talking about, because we really are probably not giving you accurate information.
I don't know. You've had some good guests on. You got from the boutique.
Chelsea Tracy was on last week. Yep.
Yep. Let's see. I believe you've had Robbie from Futurescape.
Yep.
on.
Robbie was our first official guest.
Yep.
And I met him through my husband, who knows him from various things and Siouxpercon and all that stuff. So,
okay.
So it's been fun to kind of connect with people I already know, but then also meet people I've never met before.
Sure.
Obviously, you probably find that in this environment.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of fun to...
It's amazing to see the
stuff.
connections, or the people who are on branches but don't know each other. But I know that there's that degree of separation. It's networking is fun.
Yeah, it's every once in a while when you see someone comment on someone's post on Facebook, and you're like, you two know each other?
Yep.
How's that happen?
Exactly. So what inspired you guys to start a podcast in particular?
It kind of started. There's a pop culture radio show up in Minneapolis called My Talk 1071, and it's all they do is entertainment stuff. And so we've always really loved what they do, and we both lived in Minneapolis for a long time, and we're big fans of the station. And just kind of, in our perspective, thought, well, how could we do something along that lines, but still make it a little bit Sioux Falls focused? So it's not all about Sioux Falls. We talk about random crap. We actually found a recording, and I really hope I can find it back, of we did a radio show when we were kids.
Oh,
we
my
recorded
gosh.
ourselves.
That would be so cute.
Well, even better, we need to have my friend Chelsea Cronin on, who grew up with us, because she was the bossiest kid ever, and I really want to pull it up just to play the part where she yells at us for not letting her be in charge. And I'm sure she'll watch this and she totally will accept it and be like, yep, I did that. But yeah, there's the one point where, oh, and then it's 73 degrees and sunny, whatever. She's like, hey, I was talking first. Just like screams at us. So we're going to have her on the show and then play that tape if we can ever find it.
Nice.
So it's kind of been a lifelong thing, I guess.
Very cool. Yeah, it's very fun. I found the medium of podcasting to be very democratizing because suddenly some yokel with a credit card and an Amazon and a guest bedroom can turn that guest bedroom into a studio and can speak to like thousands, potentially millions of people just instantly via the interwebs. Yeah, and it's awesome.
Well, somewhere out there, my cousins have a recording of us when we were kids, and we formed a little group called the Boredom Quartet.
Very nice. And what did you do with that?
Well, we made noises. That was it. It was just really, and then it ends with me like hitting some sort of like lid and it flipping up and hitting me in the head. And I was, ow.
And that's why you don't remember any more of it.
Probably. That was the start of my CTE history.
Oh.
Does it count if you and your siblings took like your dolls and your stuffed animals and made plays for your parents while they were behind the bed? That counts? Okay, good, then I'm part of the groove.
I don't know that I ever did a radio show. I was too busy having as I grew up with a lot of sisters, so I always had my G.I. Joes, and they were kind of the outsiders from everything else, so I always had them annexing either Strawberry Shortcake's house, and then I'd build a neighborhood around it, and they'd set up a defensive perimeter. I'm not sure against who in that scenario, but apparently, it was very important for a military to occupy the Shortcake Kingdom or whatever that was. So same with My Little Ponies, because she had the My Little Pony mansion thing, and so it's like that like good like range of fire like view area. It's easy to control if you're taking it over with a bunch of G.I. Joe paratroopers.
The more you know.
The more you know, exactly.
To know the enemy is to know thyself.
Sun Tzu?
Yeah. I
Nice.
just felt like it maybe was applicable, but...
Yeah, that worked. I think that worked. Did that work? Yeah, that worked.
Sure.
Worked better than the book club.
That's probably accurate.
Ooh, burn. Let's see. So I've talked a little bit about why I like the medium, the democracy of it. And you talked about how you guys have kind of, thought about it's been an idea with you for a long time.
Yeah.
What in particular do you like about the medium? And you guys do both the live streaming and you do podcasting through like iTunes. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite of those two, and what are your thoughts on like the difference? Because I mean, there's like very heavily like This American Lifestyle produced podcasts, and then there are live shows, and there's stuff like Sioux Empire or like what you guys do, where it's just like it's in between because we do video or do a live stream, but it's also a podcast. I
think for me, the accessibility of a podcast is really what I found interesting. And initially it wasn't even going to be video, it was just going to be straight up podcast.
Sure.
Because honestly, I didn't realize you could do both.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, I guess. But so just the opportunity to like be accessible in that way. I professionally am a realtor. I know that visual medium is important generally as well.
Oh, yeah.
So when that opportunity came up, it was like, well, heck yeah.
Nice.
And I like, I do a lot of video for work. I, what was it, 2014, I was on an episode of House Hunters, so it kind of introduced me to that aspect of using more of a, I don't know, like a social aspect of myself and how that reflects on my business, but also just fun. I like to have fun. And so, yeah.
So is it your sister, or do you edit the video and...
We don't do any real editing. We just shove it out there.
That's nice. Actually.
Yeah. It's. I always encourage people. I do a lot of like social media kind of coaching at work, and so I always encourage people to just do live video, specifically because it makes you better.
Or not.
Well, yeah. It creates, I think, your brain to perform a little faster than if you're really overproducing something.
Sure.
And so I'm just not interested in like, I'm going to make a video. I mean, I do make videos and I do edit them, but for the podcast specifically, I'm like, if we screw up, we screw up. If we sound stupid, we sound stupid. that's our normal conversation. And so if her and I and our dynamic is why people would want to tune in, if we were to edit that, it wouldn't be what it is.
Sure.
And like, you know, she can be snarky to me and I can be snarky to her sometimes. So it's just who we are.
Yeah. And there's a big debate like on the Podcast Nation, like Facebook group and stuff like that about that. Just recently they were all debating. It's like, well, do you edit and heavily produce, or do you just put out what's out there? And it seems like there's two camps where there's people who like really believe in leaving, you know, some of the flavor in it, and there are some people who are just like, that is insane. Why would you not like cut out everything and make it super produced? And just like, you know, for this format, like a discussion, I feel like you should leave in as much as you can.
Yeah, that's I am on that same page. I think if you're telling a story, then it makes sense to edit it. Yeah. You know, if you're talking like a
or an audio drama or something like that, then you
can't really just go off the cuff. It has to be produced. But you know, it's our whole idea is very conversational, and so you can't edit out part of the conversation.
Yep.
In my opinion, anyway. But it's just me.
Yeah, the content definitely. It makes sense that would be the main reason for whether you'd edit or not. I was going to say that the creator themselves were the reason, you know, that some people are just better at live rather than edited, but really they do different types of content too. When I think about those creators that, like the Ninja on Twitch, he's good live, whereas you get YouTube, damn it, I can only think of the douchebag, but Paul Rudd, or not Paul Rudd, but Jake Paul. Yeah, that douchebag.
Okay.
Like, good on YouTube because it's edited and it's, you know, 30 or 10 minutes burst of energy, but do a live cast and you suck. So, but yeah, content probably. Because story, edit, open discussion like this.
A little more casual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the long-term, the strategy with podcasting is that you build a relationship with people, and so they feel like they've had conversations with you and are your friend and stuff. So it's like when you have the barrier of high production between you and them, then it's more like, oh, I saw that guy who hosts that thing on TV. Whereas with a podcast where they're listening for like an hour at a time and it's conversational, then they feel more like they actually like know you. And that's that authenticity that those millennials and that 18 to 24 demographic really get into. And I guess that gets into Generation Z, but I could go on. Anyway. Let's see.
Well, and I think just on another note too, I think that in this realm of medium or whatever, or this medium, I don't know what I'm saying, but there are so many people, like I was for 2 years, someone who I'm making this plan and I'm going to do this. And then I was never going to do it. It's like, if you're going to have a conversational kind of a podcast or more go with the flow, like you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And we have, we'll write down what we're going to talk about, but it's not always what we get to.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And that I look at my podcast projects, and when something's a little more like on the fly, it's like I have much easier time actually getting that series produced and like making it happen with the people. And the more heavily scripted it is, the longer it is to actually like get, because like there's an audio drama one that I'd like to do, and that is like so buried in like, I don't want to say cold case, but it's a long ways off, like a year at least before I'd ever launch something like that.
Sure.
And just for all the prep work, whereas one like this, it's just like I can just on the fly be like, let's have a podcast. And so it's a big difference in the prep time and then the overhead, I guess I'd say, for it. So my next question is, so you guys are twins. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Which one of you is the evil twin?
It's debatable.
Okay.
I don't. My little sister refers to me as the fun twin.
Okay.
So Elena would probably argue against that. Yeah. I don't know if I could categorize who would be evil. I think in the realm of things, she's very
don't you think
fluffy.
That's what the evil one would say. No.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think she's very holistic and like we're very much opposites in that she's like very floral print and fluffy and not fluffy. I don't know what I'm saying, but
Are we getting you in trouble later when she watches this?
No, because I would say this to her face. That's the great part about us is like, whatever. My husband is always marveled at, he's like, you two can say the meanest shit to each other and you'd just be fine about it. I'm like, yeah, well, that's just how it is, so.
There you go. Siblings.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, we know why you like the medium and podcasting in particular. It's an idea you were kicking around. Why Sioux Falls in particular? What about this community makes you want to talk about it?
I think the more... so I've lived here for about 11 years and was a very reluctant Sioux Fallsian for a long time. My husband even more so. And we've integrated ourselves so much into our community now that it's... To me, it's, you know, so many people, like you were saying, there's that thread of, well, I know you, but I don't know you because I know you through this person.
Sure.
And there's so much of that kind of going on that it just seemed like a kind of a cool idea or, I should say an idea to feature Sioux Falls in the podcast, but not make it completely about Sioux Falls because there's so many cool events going on. There's so many cool people. You know, there's stuff that people don't even know about that they've never heard of. I mean, having Robbie on, I had no idea that was something that someone in our community was working on.
Yep.
But even cooler, like I got some of the items that he has made.
Yep.
And just like a machine just does this, like what the heck? So just telling that kind of a story sometimes is fun. But then also there's like, you know, I want to get Jenny on the show because she's one of those people who, I mean, she's got a Facebook profile that's like her persona and then her personally. And, you know, so many people are like, oh, you're friends with Jenny MC. They don't even know her last name.
Yep.
So knowing our community has like cool people like that everyone knows, but no one knows why they know them.
Yep.
Thought that would be a good kind of piece to pull into the show too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's a dynamic community, and part of what I like about covering it is it just like, there's so much going on, and I've had this discussion with like several people now that it's, we're like on the it's like, I don't want to say renaissance, but South Dakota, or Sioux Falls in particular, is going through kind of a cultural explosion with its,
I would agree,
its like art scene and its music and stuff like that. I mean, Gabriel Nightshield on Urban Indians podcast will tell you that like there was no like local hip-hop scene here at all even like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and even because he's like, yeah, it'd be like 3 of us perform, we'd be lucky if we get 5 people and we'd be in a basement somewhere hidden. And he's like, now it's like we've got major rap shows that come to town and they're like a big event. And and I've heard, and what's funny is he gets on a lot of the performers from the old days on his show to like talk about them. And they're all like, oh yeah, I remember that. We were all just like in a van together going somewhere, and it's cool to see how much it's exploded. Because like my memories of Sioux Falls from like when I went to college back in the day, Natasha can attest to this. Sioux Falls was not cool back in like 2000. Other than they had the Granite City and my 2-pull beer
and a wall fart.
And a wall fart. Because, Vermilion at the time didn't have that, so that was like a big deal that you'd come up here and go to a Walmart. But, I don't remember Sioux Falls being like a place with a scene and like things going on and exciting stuff. And it's like now that I live here years later after having lived in the Twin Cities for 7-8 years, it's very different. And in a great way. It's very dynamic and just exploding, and I'm loving it.
Well, and that's where, so Elena has lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and Minneapolis, and she was like an uptown Minneapolis girl back in the day. And,
okay.
My husband and I lived in Minneapolis. He worked downtown, he was a server downtown, and was part of the art scene because he's professionally, he went to school for dance.
Sure.
Yeah. So when we moved here, it was to start a family, and because our families were near, and we were just like, oh my God, there's nothing to do here. Like what? And it's so different now where like our favorite Friday night, drop the kids off at Grandpa and Grandma's, go downtown, wander the streets, run into all the people we know, and have a beer here, have a cocktail there.
There's sculptures and beer and cocktails everywhere.
Yep.
Travis Nye is over in the corner eating fire for no reason. He just does that.
And random card tricks on the
exactly. And it's definitely become a scene. Of course, it's coinciding with my becoming older and not wanting to do that stuff as much. So it's like killing me because I'm just like
cool stuff. I don't want to.
I'd have killed for this, and it's got the cool stuff that you'd see in a place like Minneapolis, but without the lines and the like swarms of people. Because if you're like me, you're very afraid of people, and you hide from everyone because everyone is out to get you, and
Well, the other thing, you go to Minneapolis and you're spending $13 for a beer. I was actually shocked. This is so off topic, but I was in LA recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'll have a, Tito's and soda. Okay, it's a $7.50. I'm like, what?
Whoa.
It's as inexpensive to drink and eat in LA as it is here, really. But then you go to Minneapolis and everything's like twice the price. So,
huh?
There you go, Minneapolis restaurants.
I would believe that. I lived in Woodbury for like 7 years, and it's just like moving here. It's like I made less money at first, but it was just like, but I could actually still afford groceries even though I was making less. What the heck?
Yeah, the cost of living is awesome. Yeah, we're happy to be here, and that's why we're excited to do the show. Just we were reluctant Sioux Falls residents, and now we're both so like, we love this city so much. It's kind of flipped a coin. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you've grown into it, and that's awesome.
So are you excited for the next 4 years?
So that's the one thing with our podcast is we very specifically are like, we are not talking politics.
Ooh.
So it'll come up, and I know you guys, have had people on and talk about it and everything, and that's some of the shows that I've caught, like with Teresa.
Yep.
And stuff. So, but yeah, we'll be vocal about things that don't matter, but as far as like our actual political reviews, she's a photographer, I'm a real estate agent, so we don't want to necessarily off-put anyone by our personal opinions on things unless it's something that's culturally happening, I guess.
And I don't blame you at all for that. There are so many times that I wish we were that way. Seth was just like, why did we go into politics? So it's like, it's a long story. We kind of got sucked into it because we did the legislative. Yeah, it was part of our timing. And the legislative coffee where I went and covered it, and it wasn't even like we had a dog in that fight, and then it just kind of, went from there. And
our other thing, when we started it was right before the runoff elections for the mayoral candidates, and so we had a couple people reach out to us about it, and I was like, if I let one of you on, I have to let all of you on, and I just don't have the energy. Like, I want to talk to fun people. Not to say politicians aren't fun.
It's true, though. It's not.
They are interested in and passionate about boring things.
Yeah, and I'd rather talk about like one of our topics of conversation. Yeah, and you have an opinion about that rather than like.
Did you guys end up doing a watch party for the royal
I canceled it.
Okay.
No, it was. I literally woke up at like 3:30 in the morning and I was just like, nah, I don't want to do this.
My sister was so mad because she told her husband to record it. And she's like, record it. Be sure you set the DVR. Be sure you set the DVR. I don't know. I think she was working or something that day, and it was like that. He's like, oh yeah, I got it. Oh yeah, I got it. He didn't record it, and she was.
I think they moved the time though, or some shit like that, or something like that. I don't know, dude.
Well,
they ended up rebroadcasting it so much that then we HBO had it commercial free, so then we DVR'd it for April on Mom's DVR with the HBO and the commercial free, and then I think they ended up doing a thing with like scones and tea or something later.
Well, I started watching last night the Cord and Tish HBO special, which is the Will Ferrell and Molly Shannon characters.
Oh,
that you can get that on demand on HBO. That is hilarious because they're in character the whole time. Like they do not break.
Really?
It's like I love ridiculousness. Like, have you ever seen? There was a Lifetime movie with Will Ferrell and what's her butt from Bridesmaids? She was on SNL. I can't think of her name, but they did a Lifetime movie, and so you tuned into it, and they didn't do really any press for it or anything, and so you tuned in to watch it. It was a straight up Lifetime movie. Like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't. It was like these two comedic actors just decided to, like, literally do a Lifetime movie. And if you can ever find it, I highly recommend watching it because it's just like 30, 35 minutes in, you're like, is this supposed to be funny? Or is this supposed to be like a murder mystery? And it is. So anyway.
It's a murder mystery.
Oh, I really
It's so weird. It's so funny. It's funny because it's not funny.
That stuff is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that stuff is just hits just perfect.
It's like those goddamn Final Destination, or those Final Destiny, or Final Destination. I hate them, but I do, but my girlfriend likes them a lot, and and so I have to find a way to laugh at it because I hate it. Like for the whole, it's just hilarious how stupid it is. But or at least that's how I find enjoyment.
It's funny that you mentioned that because one of our ongoing themes has been Devon Sawa, who was in those movies. And we're going to talk about it on the show next week, but he and I have the same wedding anniversary, and so I tweeted him and his wife on their anniversary, and they both liked it, and so that's like, I feel like I'm, so we're going to, it's like, I think we've had be our third episode we've talked about Devon Sawa. I don't know, just stupid.
Welcome to the Devon Sawa podcast.
Yeah. People are like, who is that? I'm like, Google it.
That is awesome. That's up there with our, like, ridiculously inside or obscure jokes. I love it. I get great pleasure out of tweeting people and having them like my, like, I'm not good at it, but every once in a while I'll have some like random, like, Wesley Snipes will like retweet something I did, and I'll be like, yes, I did it.
Is that out of reality, or is that just
no?
Like
That's 100% happened.
Yeah, she talked about it on on your social media or something.
Yeah.
I remember reading about it, and I was like, what?
Yeah, we were asking people to share their stories of when they've ever been retweeted or had a tweet or an Instagram DM or something. And so I shared a tweet that I did where I was driving on 229 North, and underneath the Russell Street Bridge was this dude who looked just like Blade. Like, standing there, cloak, jacket thing, like duster. He had a duster on. And so I was just like, what the hell? And so next time I stopped, I was like, I just saw Blade underneath the 12th Street Bridge. And tweeted Wesley Snipes, and then like he retweeted. I was like, oh my God, I'm a famous person now.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's another, random. That's why we love doing the podcast, just so we can share stupid stories.
The social media possibilities with podcasting are just... We live in an age of wonders, Just absolutely. Trying to think if... let's see, we had Garth Brooks like and retweet my Welcome to Sioux Falls when he came here tweet.
And didn't you feel like now you're best friends?
Yeah, I did. I was like, he knows we exist. And, or at least his marketing person does.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. I had one more, but if it comes back to me, I'll mention it. But, those are all like lots of fun. I'm sure mid-sentence on the next thing we talk about, I'll just be like, oh yeah, it was
by the
way. Let's see. So, speaking of celebrities, what would be your dream guest to have on Shout Out Sioux Falls?
Probably Devon Sawa. I think we're creating an environment where that's very possible. We could get him to call in, but I think it's different for both of us. For me, well, I shouldn't say that. Okay, this is
just use your talk for your twin.
Just use the just use the psychic link that all twins have and tell us what she'd say.
Oh, I would. Yeah, never mind. So we are going on the New Kids on the Block cruise.
What?
In October. It's been a lifelong dream.
First off, that's a thing.
It's a thing.
What?
It sold out within probably 20 minutes the day, because it's the 10th cruise for them. Jesus. And it's always been like a thing that we're going to do that someday. And finally this year I was like, getting on my credit card, we're going. So it's my little sister, my twin sister, and myself going. So we have an intention to maybe do the podcast from the ship and try to get one of them on.
Yes.
So we'll see. Elena's taking charge of like tweeting Jenny McCarthy left and right to try, because she's always on the cruise too. So like to see if we can connect with her, and then she could connect us with Donnie or something. So we'll see what happens.
That is awesome.
No, I think my phone's ringing. I was speaking of.
Okay. I was just like...
Speak of the devil.
Is that me?
No, it's me. I thought it was off. I just put it on silent.
You're all good.
Yeah.
No, that's... I didn't even know that's a cruise. And then you're like, not only is it a cruise, it's successful and this is like number 10.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And we'll never do it again. It's not like this is, we're going to do this every year now. Who knows? I'll get back. Maybe I'll just be like,
if you meet them all, then yes.
I mean, I am part of the Block Nation. The new kids I'm a blockhead, if you want to call it that. I've got every year I get a new gift. So I've got a rain poncho and sweatpants. And
there's this whole subculture I'm learning about. Blockheads.
There's a lot of blocks going on. Blockchain, blockhead. New kids on the block.
Yep.
And the Block Nation.
Yep, that's their website. I could tell you so much random shit right now about this. I'm a wealth of knowledge that I don't need to have.
Are you the president of the South Dakota chapter?
I don't think there is one. Maybe I should. Maybe.
Stake
my claim. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I'll think about it. I'm very busy. I don't know. I feel like it might take too much of my time to participate.
You should create the position just so that you could have it, and then you should create this position of secretary and make them, field everybody's queries.
There you go. I could also then make a badge to wear on the ship that I'm the head of the South Dakota chapter.
There you go.
Okay.
Just make it look official. That's your in.
You could make a business card at Staples with for anything.
That's true. Yeah, I guess you don't have to make a sash. You can get business cards per month.
Thinking, yeah.
Working harder, not smarter.
Yeah, there you go.
At stalking someone, yes. I guess that's a thing, but...
I mean, PI, stalker, it's a fine line.
That's the only way I use Twitter.
Is stalking?
Is just celebrity stalking.
There you go.
So...
I use it to, live tweet things, because every once in a while there's a live that, the Super Bowl, or, one of the big presidential debates, or something like that, and then I will sit there and I will live tweet it. If there was more people on Twitter for local live events, I would totally, and I used to do that a little bit. I would just, see people who were in, the 12-mile radius or whatever, would just start saying random even if it was, two friends talking back and forth, I'd just, as the podcast, interject and be like, that's hilarious, blah, 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 and just what? Love it.
Yeah, South Dakota could, or at least Sioux Falls, could use more of that on Twitter. There's not much of a active Twitter user base here in Sioux Falls.
A lot of people just don't understand how to use it properly.
Yep.
I mean, I was in that boat until 2 years ago, and then I just started using it a lot.
It makes me sad, because when I lived in the cities, it was 50% of people were Facebookers, and they used Facebook, and 50% were on Twitter, and they, and they were different groups that used it different ways. And in South Dakota, it's 80% of everything is on or happens on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then a handful of journalists know that Twitter exists, and they talk to each other back and forth via Twitter, and that's it.
Yep, I agree. That's how I've seen it too.
So let's see. So, I think that's all my interview questions. Let's see.
We'll see. I'm sure Elena will comment on the thread or whatever, what her answers would have been that are different from mine, because I'm sure they were.
Let's see. And I already asked you who's the evil twin, so we got the twin stereotype out of the way. Good.
I did one time tie her to a slow children at play sign, so maybe I am the evil twin. With a jump rope, yeah. I might be self-realizing right now.
That doesn't make you the evil twin. That makes you the awesome twin. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. So, we mentioned earlier, but let's go ahead and remind people, it's 11 o'clock on...
1 o'clock on Tuesdays.
1 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Shout out Sioux Falls on Facebook. We're on Instagram now. Shout out Sioux Falls. We have a YouTube channel, so you just search Shout Out Sioux Falls and they'll all come up. And they're all...
And this is a good point to segue into, since it's kind of turning into the Shameless Plugs.
The Sioux Empire Podcast proudly presents this week's Shameless Plugs.
So now is your soapbox moment. People know when it is. Tell us all about the social media and where they can learn more about you and what's going on.
So we are on iTunes, Shout Out Sioux Falls, Facebook, Shout Out Sioux Falls, YouTube, Shout Out Sioux Falls, just Shout Out Sioux Falls everywhere. We didn't mention it. We had a different name for 2 episodes, then we switched it. So
what up with
that's what we are. There already was one.
Okay.
And my best friend was one of the hosts of it.
Ah.
And so somewhere in my brain it was sitting there. And then
Seth is giving me a look because I know about the first one because I know those people. Yeah. So
so Rochelle is one of my best friends, and so as soon as we aired the first episode, she was like, "Hey, jerk, you still on our podcast name?" I was like, "Whoops!"
It's totally one of those networking things because I was trying to figure out how you knew Wade, and it's like, through Rochelle. It's like, okay,
yeah. So it's like this, whole kind of puzzle, and so they don't really do that anymore. But just for the sake that it was out there, and if you look at it out, I didn't want to have any kind of crossover or issue with it, so we threw it out to everyone to come up with our new name.
But shout out Sioux Falls. I like it. It works. And you guys had a contest for it, didn't you?
We did. Yep, we did. And then August Herrera, who came up with our name, joined us on the show.
Yeah.
to just talk a little bit, and found out I know him through Jenny as well.
Nice.
So
Jenny
the
is
connector.
like, she's the Kevin Bacon of Sioux
Yes.
Falls, where she's like, everyone is connected to her somehow.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. But yeah, so we're on all the social media stuff, so if anyone's looking. But we, like our page on Facebook, obviously, and subscribe to the podcast. Sometimes someone said to me the other day, like, oh, I don't get on Facebook to watch the show every week. And I'm like, well, it's on iTunes. Just download it. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. There you go. Now you know.
Yeah, it's just like you put yourself on so many mediums, and then someone's just like, but I was on PodHop 23 the other day, and you weren't on there. And it's like,
well,
sigh. It's like they don't pay me enough to hunt down all these services. Thankfully, most of them just pull from iTunes.
Yeah,
but
that was kind of the decision maker was, okay, we're already doing a video, so YouTube makes sense.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a podcast, so we want to put it on some sort of podcast platform. iTunes is the easiest one to do. So just kind of, that's what it is. We've lots of people reaching out and giving us ideas on other things we could be doing, and we're just like, we're just going to do what we're doing and call it good for now. And if the need arises to do something better or different, then we'll do it. But for now, we're like, I can just show up at 1 o'clock.
Whenever we get to holo pods, where we just like project ourselves as holograms into people's living rooms and, mess with their stuff. But
there you go.
So any other events or anything like that you want to promote while you've got the soapbox?
Well, we have so 1 o'clock Tuesday will be our next episode. We have Destiny Marshall, who is, now I'm going to forget the name of the event that's coming up this weekend. Kicks for a Cause.
Okay.
Is coming up. It's basically a kickball tournament, nonprofit kickball tournament, but all the participants are nonprofits themselves.
Nice.
So my team for KW Cares, Keller Williams, has our own little nonprofit that supports our agents. So we have a group of, I think, 12 people who are going to be playing, and it should be a really just kind of cool, fun event. I honestly, other than knowing I'm showing up for it, I don't know anything else about it, which is why we're having Destiny on the show, which is kind of the theme of most of our shows. So if people are interested in learning more about that.
I don't know anything about it. Hey, you there. What's going on?
You know something.
Yeah.
Come on over here. That's basically how we roll. So
that's the secret to getting podcast guests, is get them to come on and explain stuff you're supposed to know to you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then okay, great.
Like, I always knew that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's like, I know all of this, but for our listeners' sake, why don't you go ahead and explain that slowly and with a diagram, possibly?
My biggest concern is having someone on someday and then not knowing anything about them and then thinking I should know something about them. Because like radio interviews and stuff, you hear every once in a while where someone's like, why don't you know this? It's like, oh, crap. So that's my biggest fear, but we'll see.
People have actually been pretty good about not calling me out on stuff, other than Seth. But Seth is here to keep me honest, so.
That's why I'm here. Honesty.
Absolutely. Oh.
For those listening, there was a wink there.
Yes, there was. There's a wink and a nod, and yes.
That's funny.
So, Seth, what do you got for a shameless plug this week?
No. Thanks, Jeff, for writing that book. Raspberry Pi. I have been messing around with my Raspberry Pi. I am going to make an LED blink one of these days. No.
I was going to say that ambitious.
Just need to figure out where that resistor went to. That 340 ohm resistor, I think it is, that I need. Just Raspberry Pi. Just and then I'm gonna connect it to my Alexa, and it's gonna do my chores, I think.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Seriously though, check out Node.js. Have you played with that at all?
I've heard of it, and that's actually what I went to Barnes & Noble and got this book, 20 Easy Projects with the Raspberry Pi, and they talk about Node.js in there, and that's what you would download on your OS to run like the
Internet of Things
commands. Yeah. So that will is basically an easy way to connect your Raspberry Pi to your IoT devices and command them like that. So
I was playing with that the other day. It's fun.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too deep into it yet, but I've finally, done the initial, setting up the, OS on the Pi.
You opened the box and turned it on.
And I turned it on.
Yay!
And I realized that I should have bought a case with it.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal, but because, you're working on it anyway, but a case would be nice.
There you go.
Girlfriend.
Natasha, what have you got for us this week?
I could just cop out and do the same thing because you can play video games on it.
The Raspberry Pi?
Yeah, if you put some there.
Do you have a Raspberry Pi?
Dustin does.
Oh, okay. I did not know he got into the tech stuff. Okay. Very cool.
Because there's video games.
So, is that what you're going to plug? Is just
Sure.
also Raspberry Pi? Sure. Okay. We'll take that.
Raspberry Pi and the cheese guy.
Ooh, cheesecake raspberry. Okay. Rob's shameless plug this week will be food. No. What am I going to do this week for my shameless plug? I am going to shamelessly plug the network. Be sure to check out, the Siouxempire.com, all of our amazing shows. We've got more Macabre Grimoire coming out this week. Very mysterious stuff. I think this week we're doing D.B. Cooper, which that was a really fascinating episode because Travis, with his magician background, like D.B. Cooper's kind of like an inspiration for him, so he knew a whole bunch of like background stuff with D.B. Cooper that I didn't know, and yeah, it meshed well with the research and stuff, so that'll be really interesting. Fresh Urban Indians coming out as well this week. Yeah, so just be sure to check out all the podcasts, support us on Patreon. A reminder that the page is up on the Siouxpercon page to get your discounted hotel room there at the convention center if you're getting a hotel room for Siouxpercon. So that's going on. Never too early to start planning on that. And yeah, those are my shameless plugs this week. So anyway, Ashley, thank you for coming on the Sioux Empire Podcast. I hope we didn't scare you too badly.
No, this was fun.
And thanks everyone for being on the show this week. And yeah, we will see you all next week.
See ya.
Bye.